Forget everything else in this video as long as you're going to remember just this one thing. Okay, you should always work in blocks. 40 minutes is always 4 blocks. Like, last year 60 minutes is 6 blocks. You work in blocks that keeps you on your toes right from the first block. Okay, if you don't make blocks in your head 10 minutes, you will act as if everything is hunky-dory and chill. You'll be doing, suddenly one moment you are like at 18 minutes and feels like you have more than half the time. Next moment you see you just have 14 or 15 minutes and then panic sets in. So the blocks, make sure you're always nervous. Always nervous is good. Okay, you need the same pace in the first 10 minutes as in the last 10 minutes. People whose accuracy suffers a lot in the exam are generally those who attempt, like, a lot of questions in the second half. Like, first 20 minutes you probably attempt, like, say 6 questions, and the next 20 minutes you probably end up attempting like 10 or 12 questions. Obviously your accuracy is going to suffer, right? You can see the difference in the time you spend per question in the second half, in the first half. That, if you want to avoid that, divide the whole thing into at least 4 blocks. So depends again. Okay, 10 minutes, I'm giving you 10-minute block. I'm just speaking to the general student. I mean, if I were a 99 percentile, I'll probably make 5 8-minute blocks, because one passage gets over in 8 minutes for a 99 percentiler invariably. Okay, so depends where you lie on the line. So 10-minute block, or if you're just looking to clear cutoff, BK, you can make just 3-minute blocks, 12 12 12, and then 4 minutes is buffer. Work yourself out. Work it out yourself, and again, write out in the mocks yourself. Ask this question. Okay, what is the ideal block time for me? 4 is a decent one. Okay, and it's important, because you don't want to if you fall behind the time, you will notice it in the first block itself. Let's say you want to attempt 16 questions, so that's 4 per block. So in the 11th minute you're still attempting the 4th question, which means you're already delayed. You're like a little behind the schedule. Helps you speed it up in that second block itself, instead of doing all of it in the end. That's one thing you need to keep in mind. Also helps you not get stuck in difficult passages. Okay, you don't want to see your timer and you see that 16 minutes are gone and you are still reading the second passage. That means you're behind the clock. Okay, because you have to still answer the questions. At least 3 or 4 questions will be there, right? Which means you're going to go well into the third block before you finish the second passage. So you're just overshooting. So be careful about it. Make these blocks. Also depends on your difficulty level of the paper. Let's say the paper is extraordinarily difficult. If it is, I just hope for the sake of you guys that it's not, but let's say it's extremely difficult. So in your head you will probably say, okay, I'll just do 12 or 13 questions because it's extremely difficult paper, and if I get around 9 correct, I'll probably still clear the cutoff or reach 90 percentile. So you know that every 10 minutes you should have marked at least three questions, right? Something like 3 or 4 questions. That's how you keep track of it. People who want to attempt all the questions, let's say you see 26 or 27 questions, okay, or even 24 questions for that matter. So you should be marking at least 6 every block. So end of 20th minute, you should see 12 12 answers. All this again is visual, right? You can see the marks, you can see how many greens are there, how many reds are there. Do it with your mocks too. Okay, keeps your brain ticking every minute of those 40 minutes. So a lot of you are not disciplined enough. Your brain doesn't work consistently in those 40 minutes. It goes up and down a lot, and you're all over the place. You go back from front and then here and there. That wastes time. Okay, your brain likes consistency. It likes rhythm, just like any sportsman, just like any good music. There should be a good, gentle, consistent rhythm to the way you go about your 40 minutes. That rhythm, that should not go up and down. Neatly, gently, you go from passage to passage, because you know how you want to go about those things. So block making always helps you. Okay, so try it out. This is my favorite part. Again, a lot of you students think that RC is more doable than BA, because you're worried about not getting parajumbles right and not getting odd one out, right? My advice, okay, and you can just throw it out of the window, whatever my advice is. Again, just the old man speaking on YouTube, because he can give gyan, whatever. But my point of view is that you don't get negatives for parajumbles and odd one out, and that's an advantage if you do not waste time on those questions. If you're wasting time, if you take 2.5-3 minutes for parajumble, it's pointless. But if you can solve a parajumble in 4 sentence parajumbles, you have absolutely no excuse to spend more than 2 minutes. Let's say 4 sentence parajumbles, if you have 5 questions together, parajumbles and odd one out put together, that's 5 questions where you don't have negatives. If you're doing them even at an average of 2 minutes, 2 minutes is criminal for an odd one out question. Odd one out question should be done in 1.5 minutes. So, but even if, let's say, you're spending 10 minutes, you only need to get 3 correct, you're scoring 9 marks in 10 minutes. 9999 is still 36 marks. There's a good chance that 36 is probably a safe score if it's, a moderate paper. It's not easy, not too difficult. It's easy paper, again, God save you, 36 is not going to be enough. So you have to calibrate the paper there. But 3 out of 5, how good are you in VA in odd one out in para-jumble? Can you get 3 out of 5 by spending 2 minutes? Okay. The more street smart thing to do would be, if you have more questions in the 24 questions or 26 questions, let's say you have 26, 27 questions, try to attempt all VA questions and do them at like 1.5 minutes. Like, so if there are 3 para summary, 3 para jumble and 2 odd one out, or whatever that combination is, 8 questions, try going for all of them. Probably spending 12 minutes, you are doing all 8 questions. You're hoping that you get at least 6 correct, right? Para summary again is tricky because some of you are scared of the negative marks, but I keep reminding students, para summary is not this, yes, the way you solve it is the same as RC passage, but slightly easier in the sense that you can compare options in para summaries, unlike in RC passages. In that, the options all tend to be similar in para summary questions, because almost all of them are trying to make the same idea, just a little difference here and there, which makes it easier to compare them than an RC passage where each option is something totally different usually. So, your call. You can totally leave para summary, or you can do para summary first, or you can leave just do para summary for the end, up to you. But I'm a big fan of doing odd one out para jumbles. If you don't have time for para jumbles, let's say you just not been able to take the time of solve the odd one out question, at least in the last 2-3 minutes, you can still attempt 3 or 4 questions. Okay, 1 minute. You have nothing to lose. You have to just score 1 correct. Okay, you're attempting 3 odd one out questions in 1 minute each, 3 minutes. You get 1 correct, you've got your 3 minutes worth, right? So, and if you get 2 correct, nothing like it. So please, it's criminal to not attempt odd one out questions. And it's criminal to leave out that 1 easy para jumble question, which I am dead sure will be there in every paper. Okay, doesn't matter which VARC section it is, it's always going to have at least 1 easy para jumble. Your job to find out that one. How do you find out? It's very simple. Just look at the length of the sentences, look at the connectors on the left side. How many clues are there? Can I see dates? Can I see names? Stuff like this makes it easy. I've made some para jumble videos also to discuss this. It's common sense again. Okay, I know people are making a big business out of trying to tell you how to solve all these mysterious questions, but at the end of the day, simple good readers will tell you it's just common sense. Sometimes just the tone. You just look at stuff and you know how they fall into place. It'll be just one sentence this side or that side. Good day you get them right, bad day you get them wrong. It's as simple as that. So please make time for VA section. Okay, it's important you do that. Now, should I start the VA or end with VA? That's the other question that gets asked a lot. I'm not a fan of starting with VA at all. The reason I'm not a fan of starting with VA is VA can get squeezed, VA can get stretched depending on how many questions are, how many questions you want to do, how much time is left. So I can do an odd one out question in the end in probably 45 seconds. But if I'm doing the same odd one out question in the beginning, I'll end up eating up 1.5 minutes unnecessarily. But in the end, you can't do an RC passage under pressure when you are panicking, when the time is ticking. You cannot do it fast. Okay. So you do not end a section ever with an RC passage, ever, like never, ever. And if you're doing it, good luck to you, man, but it's just stupid. Okay. You're always ending the section with VA questions, always. Okay. If it's, let's say 40 minutes, if it's a 32nd minute or 33rd minute, unless you're somebody who has a reading speed of 250, 275, you do not touch the next RC, because you're not going to be able to read the passage peacefully. You're not going to be able to answer the questions. You'll end up reading a passage, investing 3.5 minutes, and end up just attempting 2 questions. That's a 8-minute, criminal waste of time where you can solve like, 5, para jumble plus odd one out questions, because VA questions are easier to solve faster. You don't need memory. Like para summary, for example, okay, 3 para summary questions, always better than 1 RC passage any day, isn't it? Because you have to remember only 1 para and just compare options. 1 para and compare options. And you notice the length, para summary length is generally around 110 to 130 words. Give or take 5 or 10 this side. If you're lucky, it'll be 100 words, or if it's unlucky, 140 words. But even if it's 140, which is like extremely long, a long paragraph, 140 into 3, that's just going to be, not more than 420 words, 450 words at most. I don't know. For 3 paragraphs, that's 3 RC questions. So you're reading a lot more for an RC passage. An RC passage is around 450 to 550, 525, 530 words for 4 questions, sometimes, or for 5 questions, depending on how many questions will be there this year. We can't be sure. Again, you understand the point, right? So I'm a big believer that you should end the section with VA. Now, can I do it in 2 parts? Can I start with 2 or 3 VA questions and then end with 2 or 3 VA questions? Yes, you can do that. but you go back and forth, back and forth. You can do that if you are a slow starter. If you're somebody who can't just jump into a passage and your brain needs warm up, probably you can start with parajumble or odd one out question. But again, like I said, that's fewer questions for you from the end. In the end, you'll always be faster than you are in the beginning. So where you should have been reading an RC passage peacefully, you're just wasting time spending 3 minutes on an odd one out question or a VA question. I'm not a big fan of that either, but you can do it. Now, if you really need warm up, again, this is my humble suggestion. If you really need warm up, instead of wasting, doing a VA in the beginning because you need warm up, do the warm up. Okay, don't make the RC passage, don't make whatever you're reading in the exam the first thing you're reading that day. Whether it's your morning slot, afternoon slot, obviously very definitely you're going to be reading something. Make sure you read an A1 article in the morning. Wake up, read a 3,000 word A1 article. Get your brain loosened up. Read a lot. Helps if you can solve an LR set. It's a little difficult for the first lot people because it's way too early in the morning, but helps. Okay, nothing opens up your brain like solving an LR set. Just pick up an LR set from some mock. Try your just think about it. Don't have to even solve it. It fires up your neurons like nothing else. Read up an Aeon article very quickly. Let your eyes get used to it. It's like how, if you notice Sachin's characteristic, when he walks and he just always look back at the sun, or he used to do that. I mean, back in my time when we watched test matches. So whether you notice or not, so it's getting the eyes acclimatized to the sunlight. It's same logic. Suddenly your brain has to look at words in a certain format, some ideas, condensed ideas, and could be tricky. You have to spot the nuances. Get your brain used. Please don't make what you're reading in the exam the first thing you're reading that day. It should not be. It's criminal. Okay, that is a good warm up. You can just start with an RC passage. Start with the easiest RC passage. Okay, just look at the first paragraphs of all 4 passages. Pick the easiest one. That's the warm up. Keep the VA for the end because you can go really fast in VA. Okay, let's say you did 3 RC passages and you overshot the time in all the passages and ended up in the 35th minute you finished the 3rd RC. In 5 minutes you can still do odd one out, all the odd one out and parajumble. You can just go really fast and say, hey, I'm attempting everything. Whether I'm going to get them right or not is a different thing, but it's possible. Okay, it'll give your attempts a bump up without your worrying about negatives. It helps, right? You get 2 correct out of 5, 4 marks in 5 minutes, still worthy, right? So try it out again. I mean, if you're very adamant that you're going to do VA first and then RC, it's up to you. Again, depends on how it works out for you. I'm not one to tell you, but at least I'm not a fan of, finishing VA first and then ending with RC. I keep a few VA questions in the end. The VA questions that you're definitely going to do. Again, if you finish para jumbles and odd one out and you left para summaries for the end, but you've never really attempted para summaries in the, mocks, and you're not comfortable. And I know that some of you never touch para summaries in mocks because I see the analysis, and some of the things. I rarely see, a lot of you do not. I mean, I don't know why, but give them the para summaries a miss. And then it's not part of a strategy, and you can't leave that in the end. Say, hey, last 4 minutes, I'll do the 3 para summaries for the first time in my life. Doesn't work either. So this is another question that you're supposed to be asking yourself. But I'm a big fan of 4 blocks, 3 blocks for RC, 1 block for VA, 10 minutes for VA, and ideally speaking, RC, VA. That's how I would go about it. But again, it's up to you. 5 minutes VA, then again from the 5th minute to the 35th minute, 3 RC blocks, and then last 5 minutes again you want to do VA. I mean, be my guest. You can try that out. $1 million question: how many RCs will you attempt? Now, this is my theory here. Again, I'm a big believer that you should read well. By now, you would have known. I mean, every video I keep, repeating the same thing, almost boring the hell out of you. But my point of view is that if you're not scared of reading, that's half the battle won in VARC section. Okay, a lot of you attempt the difficult question of a passage. Out of 4 questions or 5 questions, there'll be one unsolvable question which is there only for the 99 percentile or the 100 percentile. Some of you get stuck in that one question and you end up wasting 3 or sometimes even 4 minutes on that question because you are too egoistic to let go of it, or you have that gambler's fallacy. Okay, gambler's fallacy is like you lost money. It's called sunk cost fallacy. You can Google it also if you want. You'll read it a little bit. It's funny. You lost some money. You want to gain that money. You put more money into it. And same logic here. You lost some time. You put more time into it. So you're like, hey, I read this passage already, so I might as well do all the 5 questions or 4 questions. Okay, stupid thought. What you should think about instead is, you read the passage, you did 3 questions, okay, 10 minutes done. The 4th question is actually very difficult. you not do that question. Similarly, you won't do the difficult question in the other passages as well. So you're probably saving about 4 minutes, right? You can read another passage in those 4 minutes, opens up 1 or 2 easy questions of that passage. So instead of doing 3 difficult questions of each of the 3 passages that you have attempted, you are reading the 4th passage and doing the 2 easy questions. That improves your accuracy, obviously, again, because instead of attempting the 3 difficult questions, you attempted the 2 easy questions of that passage. Okay, so think of it this way. Give it a thought, try it out if you want to. But I am a big believer that just because you've read a passage doesn't mean you have to solve all the questions of that passage. It's better if you stick to the time, and ideally, if you want to be a 90% or above, you should always have that clock in your head. You should be doing a question every I don't know, 2 minutes. 2 minutes is good to type, because you generally not be able to stick to it. You'll end up at least 18 attempts if out of, if you're attempting 20. But 2 minutes per question on an average. So if you want to attempt an RC passage of 4 questions, you should not probably be spending more than 10 minutes. Obviously, you'll overshoot a little bit, right? 10 minutes, you attempt all the 4. But instead, you could just end at 8 minutes, and the 4th question, is really difficult. You just read it and barely makes sense out of it. Leave it. Don't get stuck to that, because you save 2 here, you will save 2 minutes again the next passage if it's a difficult question, and then you save 2 more in the 3rd passage. Lo and behold, suddenly it's just 25 minutes. You're done with 3 passages. Yeah, obviously you only have 9 attempts, but you can read another passage and do 2 easy questions. So that's 9 plus 2, around 12, 11 to 12 questions that you have attempted, but you've attempted easier questions in that passage rather than difficult questions in this passage. Every passage will have 1 or 2 easy ones and 1 or 2 difficult ones. So somewhere on 33rd, 34th minute, you've attempted about 12 questions of the 4 RC passages. Remaining 6, you attempt the odd one out, and you'll still hit 16, 17 attempts. So think about that. See if it works out for you. See, try a couple of mocks like that. Okay, 1 hour sectional test. Also keep an eye on the question types. At some point, I would really love to, if I can find some time, make a video on how to identify question types in a particular, passage. Just looking at the questions, but suffice to know that everything can eat, every variation eats up your time. Are they long options, short options? Is it a direct question, indirect question? Okay, can I see keywords in the question or not? Is it a critical reasoning question, or is it a data-based question? Okay, or is it a further application, or something that's beyond what's in the passage? Some new cases are given in the options which are not there in the passage, just to see if you understood the passage. So different types of questions are there. Use common sense. Look at the 17, 18, 19 papers somewhere on, if you can find them online or whatever. Just look at old CAT salt papers. I don't know how you want to go about it, but the idea is to look at a particular question and be able to guess what is the time you usually take for that question. Okay, that's the idea. So you need to know your limitations. Again, there, if you see which of the following invalidates the author's argument made in the, or author's main argument in the passage. Now, finding the main argument itself is tricky. Which of the following invalidates that argument? So you're going to find that. You're going to find the weak point of the argument. You're going to see which of the options is actually proving that particular argument of the author wrong. Could get really tricky. Okay, so do you really want to spend 3 minutes trying to figure out that question, or do you want to just leave it and move on? Okay, depends, and that comes from your reading confidence. So if you're somebody who can even read 200 words per minute, you see another passage of about 450, 500 words, that's just 2.5 minutes. So if you say leave out one question, you get the time to read a 4th passage, and there'll be pretty sure at least one easy question which you can attempt. So instead of attempting the difficult question, you are attempting the 2 easier questions there. Okay, so that's the trade-off. So go see what works for you. Don't just be scared, because don't just make up your mind that, oh, hey, I'm going to only do 3 passages or only 2 passages, right? Keep your mind open, because if it's a paper like a couple of years back, very easy, then you cannot say I'll do only 2 passages or 3 or 2.5 passages. You have to go full tilt for all the passages, because you see that you can. How do you know it's easy or difficult? When you're reading, can you read fast? Okay, that's all. You don't need to use rocket science to know whether something is easy or difficult. Are you able to read fast or slow? Is it making sense to you? If it's making sense to you, it's going to make sense to a lot of people, like that, right? So invariably, you can, by just reading through for about 10 seconds or 15 seconds of a passage, you should be able to figure out things like, what is the author's style of writing? Does he use a lot of bombastic words? Does he use longer sentences and difficult ideas, or does he have a twisted way of saying stuff? What is the subject of the passage? And lo and behold, you know whether the passage is difficult or easy. You see difficult, 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 you know that the paper is going to be difficult. Easy, 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 you know that the paper is going to be easy. You have to attempt more. Okay, so make sure you ask all these questions. And see, the main purpose why I had to make this video, I know a lot of you have been posting this question to me as to, you know, what somebody should do in a 40-minute VARC section, and it's going to be very difficult. So that's why very difficult, because 40 minutes is too short a time, and you lose 5 minutes, it's big chunk. Okay, so you don't have to you do not have the time to redeem yourself at any given point of time. But I do not want you to walk into the exam like Mandalorian, slinging a gun, being a bounty hunter. You cannot pull it off. Okay, don't try to be a cowboy like that. Make sure you have plans. Easy paper, what am I going to do? Difficult paper, what I'm going to do? Moderate paper, what I'm going to do? So you have to know what's easy, what's difficult, what's moderate. You have to have made an Excel sheet if necessary. Write the list of topics possible. Go back, whatever mock you're attempting, they would probably give you the analysis. Okay, how much you've scored in which mock and which passage. Check out what question types are your weakness, what question types are your strength, what subject is your strength, what subject is your weakness. You can break down the data in all these ways to know what you're comfortable with. All this goes into the calibration. It's a very complicated equation if I put it like this, but you know the field, right? Some of you will know what's easy and what's difficult, right? The big problem of losing your focus while you're reading, that again comes from subjects you're interested in, subjects you're not interested in. If you're interested in something, you just read with the flow and you answer a lot of them very fast and quickly and get them right. But sometimes you get distracted, sometimes you midway you're drifting away somewhere, and therefore you invariably have to reread a lot of stuff. That happens when the passage is boring. Therefore, please practice reading a lot of boring passages. As simple as that, right? Not difficult to find boring stuff online. Many websites like All Daily, for example, find long difficult passages from a lot of different other websites. ALDA, ILY, check it out. Or Aeon is good enough actually. Can just the end all of all reading. The point is, try not to drift away when you're reading. Okay, if your standard problem is that you're drifting away in the middle while you're reading, it means that you are not connecting the sentences in your head. Okay, that's when you drift off, when your brain doesn't know what to do with the information it's reading. Okay, the only way to not drift out is you read 3 lines, summarize it in your head. Then when you come to the 4th line, hold on to the summary. So now your brain's busy, it can't drift off. Okay, it's like holding something and then trying to do something. And like if you have to remember a telephone number, for example, what do we do? First 3 you memorize, and 3 you memorize, and 3 depends on how 4 or 5 or whatever it is. What depends on how much your memories. You understand the point, right? So easier way. So just make that chain in your head. Okay, 3 or 4 sentences, summarize, keep that summary in your head. Okay, first 4 sentences was about this, next 4 was about this, next 4 was about this. So now you don't have time to drift away. If you're not doing this, just reading like a story, your brain will get bored and go away somewhere. Okay, so tell your brain, hold this for me, like a kid, right? A kid will always full of energy running around. Treat the brain like that. So what do? You give that kid a task and say, hey, do this. Keep the kid busy, right? Same logic. Stop your brain from drifting away. Don't come complaining saying, hey, I'm drifting away. That's not a good question to ask any teachers. Teachers don't appreciate questions like that, because it's like you saying, hey, I don't even want to read with focus, but can you please tell me how I can get to IIMs and get bumper jobs and make like, I don't know, 1 crore a year or something. It's a bad question to ask. It hurts teachers. Okay, so figure out yourself how not to drift away, how to focus. I mean, hey, if it's your career, if that's not motivation enough for you to focus, I don't know what will be. Okay. So I hope I have answered some of the questions that you guys have had. If you have any more questions over and above this that probably not covered it, just leave a message, leave a comment, on YouTube. And I'll try to see if I can make another quick video as and when I find time. I have a few other that I want to talk about, for example, RC in particular question types, and how to read the question first or passage first, and things like this need to be discussed also at some point of time. Hopefully we'll do that, and hopefully that'll benefit you. If you've benefited from this video, you know what to do, right? Please share, subscribe, like, smash the bell, okay, or not, it's your call. Until next time, peace out.